My name is Charles Scott, and here we are again this fine weekend, or I should say weekday. I'm here with my son, Charles Scott.
Junior, how you guys doing today? Hello, my viewers. Also, I just want to let you guys know, if you miss an episode from week to week, go on our Facebook page, TikTok, I have them on Twitter now, or YouTube, and just catch up on some of the episodes we talked about. We talk about a range of topics, not just real estate, but a lot of things that affect real estate in our day-to-day lives.
We're here today. We're going to be talking about real estate. We're going to be talking about some of the things that you can do as far as what's happening within the market. You know, the prices are pretty stable. Everything is different across the country. Real estate is all local. So some of the things that you hear that's happening across the country may not even appear to the Northeast. We were just looking at some statistics, and there's a big drastic change between, let's say, Connecticut and Florida and the Middle West. A lot of these things are happening because of the supply, the demand, and the availability of space and land. We are near New York, Boston, so we get an overflow of some of the people that are coming in from these particular areas.
I'll say we're in a very unique area. I mean, I look at the news every day involving real estate. What it is since COVID, we've had a lot of disruption with the workplace as far as a lot of remote workers moving to different parts of the country. They don't usually see an influx of people. Now, you see with all the new changes in the government, a lot of people are going back to work in person. So they're selling their houses in these areas, going back to where they came from. We're seeing around the country a lot of prices going down. But Northeast, we're near New York, we're near New Jersey, we're near Massachusetts above us. We're in a particular area where there's, like my father said, influx of people coming into the state constantly, because they're seeing Connecticut is kind of a state that offers all kinds of things, from raising a family. We have business out here. Very nice state to live in.
Yeah, we have a lot of different changes that are occurring, especially in the state of Connecticut. We have shortage of properties. That's one of our main things right now. And we don't have the land like in the Midwest or out in the areas like some places like maybe North Carolina. We don't have all of that land where we can just build like crazy. Even if they were able to build, right now the developers are sort of holding back. And so we have a shortage of inventory. That's why we've been recently talking about, if it's a good time to sell. If you are a homeowner, if you're looking to, relocate and you want to maximize your selling power, now is a good time to do that, or to at least get what we call a market analysis to get an idea of, what your property can sell for. I know you spoke recently to a person, they got a lot of money for that.
Yeah, I talked to someone who sold their multi-family house, and they got well above asking. Well above asking.
I mean, well above asking.
You want to know how much? Give me a call. Number's right there. I don't even want to say it out loud, but it's just, wow, the house sold for that much. And what that is going to do is it's going to influence the area. The houses around there are now going to be increased in value, because now when the bank says an appraiser, he's going to say, well, how much did that house sold for? Okay, so that's a good comparable or comp for the next house. So the thing is, these prices going up and up may not last forever. Like I told someone yesterday, I could be talking to you, same TV, same channel, talking about it's a buyer's market now. Wasn't that seller's market that we had from 2020 to 2025 great? Now the buyers are in charge, which means when the buyers are in charge, a lot more negotiation is involved, and prices usually sell below asking. So I'm talking to my sellers now, if you want to capitalize on the most equity you have in your house, this is a great time to sell. All the factors are in there. We have low inventory, but we still have the high demand.
Especially with the low low inventory. We've been sitting on low inventory for quite a while, and actually you don't see that changing any. Do you see that changing any as far as what's going on?
What I see right now is the builders are building condos, apartments. What we need is single-family homes for the starter families. But I don't see this changing with those inventory unless people start selling their houses at a drastic speed, and we're going to be at the same stalemate we're in now.
One of the things that happened recently in the state of Connecticut, the legislature is passing a huge housing bill. The governor is putting a lot of emphasis in the state of Connecticut on housing, especially apartments. Especially apartments, because in the past, the people that work for companies or businesses, the employees, the youth that graduate from college, they have nowhere to live, and it's so expensive. So there's a lot of apartments that are going to be built, and they're changing the laws to accommodate that. Some of the things that they're doing in the state of Connecticut under the new housing proposed bill is to eliminate a lot of the parking that's required whenever you build an apartment building. So, for example, if you build an apartment building, in the past, the zoning required so many parking spaces for the people that live in that apartment building.
Correct.
And that's hard when you're dealing with a state like Connecticut, when you have a lot of cities, New Haven, Hartford, Bridgeport, Norwalk, Stamford, you know, and a lot of the apartments that are being built in downtown areas next to train stations or transportation. So you don't have the parking, so that stops a lot of the building that's going on.
Or you'll see what they'll do, if they have it in their budget, they'll dig deep and put the parking underneath the building and have like a parking garage there. But that's very expensive. But these new laws could actually free that up for the developers.
Yes. So what'll happen is that now, without requiring all of that parking, you'll be able to build a lot more apartment buildings. The other thing with the apartment buildings that they're doing is they're allowing developers to convert a lot of the commercial space into apartments. And before, what would happen is that you would have to go through a lot of zoning, building, codes. You'd have to go through quite a lot of government agencies in order to convert a commercial building into a residential apartment building. So they're eliminating a lot of these laws based upon the size of the development, where you can bypass that. You don't have to go through all of the zoning to convert a small project from, let's say it's a little small building that was previously an office building. Maybe there's 6 apartments that can be put in there. Previously, you had to go through 4 or 5 different agencies. It could take years. By eliminating all of that, a person can now buy that commercial space and turn it into apartment buildings.
And we see that all over Bridgeport. But if you drive through Bridgeport, I mean, I can show you some structures, even near our office. Looks like a giant brick high school, but that's really apartments, really condos. Got converted years ago, and we're seeing that more and more. Drive up by Trumbull in the mall, they have condos right next to the mall, and some even encroaching on the mall. So what we're seeing is a lot of commercial, a lot of things like old schools. Their developers are now looking at these locations and seeing if they can turn them into apartments or condos.
And speaking of malls, they're turning a lot of the malls now into apartments. Whereas, you surrounding the mall, you have 300 or 400 apartments. So now people can live right there. It's like a little, I call it co-op city. You can
campus
live there,
of some sort, because what we're going to see with the malls, we're going to see more, I'll say, people-focused business coming. Like, for example, we're going to start seeing more dentist offices in malls, and urgent care, doctor offices, because now people are living right next to the mall. We're seeing less retail, clothing, jewelry. A lot of people go online for these things now versus going to a brick or mortar.
Now, you might want to look at it this way too. You got to be in the future and you got to foresee things. We are now, like I said, my son and I were talking to people out there about why is it a good time to sell your house. You got to time the market right. In other words, everything in, whether it's finances, stock market, you just got to be ahead of the curve, and you've got to be able to say what's going to happen. If we all had a crystal ball and we could see what the lottery was going to be or what the trends were going to be, all people always say, oh, I wish I was a shoulda, coulda, woulda, if I could have done that, if I knew this, if I knew that. Well, you may not know everything, but you can do research and see where the trends are. Where are we headed? There's like what do you call it, a reaction, an action and a reaction. So look at it this way. What's happening? The reason why houses are so high and the prices has gone up on the houses is because people, number one, we have a shortage of inventory. Then on top of that, we have people that are paying rents that are high, so they say, hey, I might as well buy a house if I'm paying this much in rent. Because the rents are up. So now, with all of this new rentals and apartments and thousands of units coming online, that in turn will make the rents go down because there will be more inventory.
Yes.
So now if the inventory goes high for the apartments and people can get affordable rentals, then they say, oh, well, I can hold off on buying that house. So that takes the demand off the housing. Therefore, the reaction is the price of the house goes down.
Exactly.
Because it's not as attractive when you got a person that can just go and rent an apartment and get a really nice new apartment at an affordable rent. Then they're saying, well, I'm not going to buy that house for all of that money when I can just go rent. Besides, I might not be living in this area, I might job, I might So now that means that the demand for housing goes down. So what you were planning on getting by holding off on selling that house, now all of a sudden you're not going to get it because the value has gone down.
That's the perfect way to explain it. You see how he went from the apartments. You didn't know he was going to end up back on the house sales because it all affects each other. It's like I'll say the food chain. This is the house chain. You know, you got the apartments. You have the people who buy the houses, the landlords. You have the people who build the houses, and you have the developers. So it's going to end up where when one demand alters, it's going to have a chain effect to the other thing. Thanks. Very good example.
Good example. Hey, thanks a lot, sir.
Very good example. Very easy to follow, too.
That's easy to follow. So what I'm trying to tell you is that I'm giving you insight as to, this is, not really how can I say it?
I'll say like this. This is not what the news is going to tell you.
The news isn't going to tell you.
By the time you see on the news, it's actually too late. And what happens when you see on the news, that's when people start panicking and start, for example, one day we're going to see the news eventually where it's going to say house prices in Connecticut may be faltering due to inventory increase. And then we're going to get calls, oh, I'm ready to sell, thinking they're going to get that maximum equity when they should have sold that previous summer.
Right, because, see, one thing too, I guess, is age. I've been through this many times. I've been through 4 ups and downs.
Yep.
When like I said, I've been in business for over 40 years. And, it's always like what goes up must come down.
It's a cycle. It has to fulfill itself.
What goes up comes, hey, when the moisture goes up, the rain comes down.
Rain comes down hard, too.
It doesn't keep going higher and higher and higher. I guess the higher the moisture goes, the more layers of rain and the heavier the rainstorm. So you don't want to wait for a tsunami or a rainstorm, a watershed moment where you have to sell the house. The main thing that's happening right now is I've seen it where things go higher and higher and higher, and you've got to be able to time the market. You've got to be able to time the market, and you can't really do it to a precise.
I was going to tell you that. It's not going to be perfect. I mean,
it's not going to be perfect.
I have clients that sold 2 years ago, made a great amount of money. Honestly, if they would wait 2 more years, they would make even more money, but they still made money. I mean, you can't. It's like catching a falling knife, they say, with stocks. You don't know when to sell, but when you have a good inkling, sell. Take your profit and move on. Same thing for a house. If you're comfortable with the profit that you're going to make, sell, move on to your next, whether you're going to be a renter or buying something, because if you wait too long, you might get stuck and now you're underwater.
But also, you got to look at those people that sold that maybe could have waited a little bit longer. It all averages out because those people that sold then were able to take advantage of an opportunity then that they possibly wouldn't be able to take now. It's where your mindset is and where where you're headed. You got to be able to, like I said, study the market, do your research. We've done a lot of the research for you. We study this 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We wake up looking and
Give us a call, that number, free CMA.
That's right.
And just to reiterate, like I tell people, well, I don't need a CMA. My phone has Zillow in it. It tells me every day how much the price is. Like I've told in some of my other Facebook videos, Zillow doesn't know what's going on inside your house. You may have granite countertops. You may have a finished basement. You may have a pool, jacuzzi. Those factor into the price also. So like I said, call us. Send us pictures of the house, or we can come by the house. We'll give you a full CMA report, and I'll tell you how much your house could sell in this market at this time.
That's right, because now's like I said, I keep saying it over and over, but it's so true. Now's a good time to sell, but do the research. What I'm telling you is not just to tell you something, but to give you the cause and effect. What's going to happen, and it's not 100% certain, but what happens is that you get analysts. Analysts analyze things. They crunch the data, they put it all together, and they say, well, and the trends are in the past, if this happened, that happened. If this happened, that happened. If this happened, that happened. So within a certain amount of certainty, they can almost tell you what's going to happen, and they just don't know the exact date that it's going to happen, but at least you have the, the foresight to be able to make an educated decision, I get what they call the Kiplinger newsletter. I get it every week. Every week it tells me different things about the economy, the politics, the prices, the politics of the local and state. So it gives you sort of an insight as to how I can plan my future, how I can plan finances, my business, my life, because what they're telling me is and this is made up of hundreds and hundreds of people, and thousands of people actually, that do research every single week.
And I see that. I know he was going to tell you that secret. Most people have over their heads, but that's a good report to look at, the Kiplinger's report. But remember, call us if you want to ask any questions.
Where's your Kiplinger report?
Where's your report? That's a subscription right there. He analyzes that letter every week and highlights certain things. But you got to do that if you want to stay ahead of the curve, because remember, like I said, if you look at the mainstream news for your news, although good, but by the time it hits the news, it's actually old news. We see these trends coming a mile away. Don't we see that as far as when it comes to like COVID and the prices going up? We saw that happening in 2021. It wasn't until 2022 it's really all over the news, and we've been experiencing this for the last 6 months.
We knew. We knew what was happening, So, a good recommendation, like I'm saying, the Kiplinger report is one. Another excellent one is the Bloomberg report.
Oh, yes.
Most people know Mike Bloomberg being the mayor of New York, but the Bloomberg report is one of the, billions and billions of dollars that he amasses just from giving out knowledge.
Yep,
The Bloomberg report is in thousands of countries. They've got reporters everywhere, and it always amazed me what they sell is information and reports. And every business person or every person out there, you tell them Bloomberg, and they got what do you call it? TV channels.
Terminals.
They've got XM radio. You can listen to them 24/7. But they analyze. All they do is analyze, and you can't come in and analyze something 6 months at a time. They're analyzing it every minute.
Yeah, every minute.
Every minute on the minute. As you see the sticker tape going around, every time that thing comes around, it's going up or down, up or down, up or down. So what I'm trying to say is that what we're giving you is information that we analyze, and it's free.
Yeah,
we're not
free.
Charging for any of this.
Free information.
What's the cost? Zero.
Zero. Especially when it comes to like I said, the CMA, the cost market analysis. That's a valuable tool. I mean, there's some clients that call me multiple times per week for different CMAs and different properties they're interested in, because it's pretty accurate as far as I'm looking at the sales in the area, I'm looking at the active ones, I look at the ones that didn't go through, and I can find a pretty accurate price on what your house could be worth in this market. And some people can't believe it. Wow, my house, I paid this much for it. I can sell it for that much? I'm like, yeah.
Yes, and this is something that you need to know, because as I said, we get requests for market analysis for many different reasons. A lot of times people will call me and they'll say, I want to get an idea of what my house is worth, and I'll say, well, what's the reason for it? Sometimes people may want to refinance. We don't do a full appraisal, but they want to get some kind of an idea.
Yes.
Some people may be partners, and the partners may basically want to sell and split up the money to get an idea of what the value may be. Some people may want to get an equity line of credit, maybe borrow money on the house. So there's all sorts of reasons as to why people want to get an idea of the value, of their house. Some people may want to relocate to another city where prices are they can sell their house and buy another house, the much lower than usual. One of the things that's happening recently, which may surprise people out there, is that, okay, so you sell your house, where are you going to go? You realize a lot of people are moving out of Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Of all places. Years ago,
Florida was where people went to
all you
retire.
ever heard was everybody was going to Florida. Everybody was below, everybody's going to Florida. So you could actually move to Florida now and get a pretty good deal on a house.
I want to add to the other list. Some people ask us for CMAs because their property taxes are being increased by the city, and they want to challenge the city and say, what's my house really worth? Give us a call. I've had some clients realize if my property taxes are going up this much, I'm selling because at this point, it's out of my budget. I'm on a fixed income. So people call us for CMAs. So if you got any letters in the mail talking about your property taxes going up, definitely give us a call.
When you're speaking of taxes, I'll give you a good example of something, of things that are happening out there, and this will make a lot of people probably run down and look at their house.
What's that?
I've had people that have called me, and I did a market analysis on their property and looked at the tax records and found out that they were getting charged for owning a 3-family house when they only owned a 2-family house.
Yep.
and how could they get charged the taxes for a 3-family and they only own a 2-family? Because a lot of times these companies that figure out the taxes, they don't actually come into your house. They'll drive around with a camera. You ever go to Google search and you can see all the houses, but they'll drive by and they'll do a visual. They're called vision appraisals is one of them. They'll look at the house on the outside and they say, oh, that's a 3-family. But what happens is you may have a first floor, a second floor, and in the attic they have another window up in the attic. It looks like a 3-family.
There's a 2-family.
So they say, oh, okay, 3-family house, they mark it. So now you're paying taxes, 3-family, 3-family, 3-family. Now I come and I look and I say, hey, you realize on the records it says your house is a 3-family? No, it's a 2-family. I says, yeah, but you've been paying taxes on a 3-family. They say, what? So then they call the city hall. And they send out the zoning person, they send out the building guy, and they look and they say, yeah, this is a 2-family. And then you know what you say, oh, okay, give me a refund on all the money that I've been given for you.
How about
and they
that?
say, well, no, we're not doing that. You should have told us a long time ago. It's your responsibility to let us know. So they're not giving you back a refund, but your taxes go down because now they realize it's a 2-family and not a 3-family. So I've had that happen many times. So, you know, for a lot of people out there, especially it happens with a 2-family house with an attic upstairs.
When the attic upstairs.
And
Or
it looks
people
like a 3.
that buy these, for example, some people buy these houses cash, not realize a lot of the work wasn't permanent. If they go to City Hall and tell them what they have in their house, their taxes might actually go up. There's an extra bathroom here or extra bedroom here. So it all plays different ways.
There's different ways that these things happen. But there again, that's another reason why you can give us a call and we can do that research. We can look it up for you. You may end up saving money without even knowing it. You don't have to sell the house. You may even save money on your current taxes because now your property will be taxed properly. Sometimes it says you got 3 bathrooms or 3 baths and there's only 2 baths. You know, everybody, what happens in the reevaluation, they send around that letter and they tell people to fill it out. Well, if you don't fill it out properly, you know, sometimes they're going to go on what you put down on that
whatever you
paper.
put there, they're going to go off it.
That's what they're going to base your taxes on, what you write down on that piece of paper. So unless you know, and sometimes if you got older people, retired people, they can't understand, they can't read it, or they don't understand English that much, and they filled out that form wrong. Well, guess what? Your taxes are you're being taxed more. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to, you know, periodically get the value of your house, find out what's going on. And there again, you know, the numbers right there on the screen.
Yeah, give us a call. I mean, we got a lot of past customers. We've sold them houses probably 8 years ago. They still call us when they get letters in the mail. What's this mean? So we help them out, you know.
We get that letter. We get those calls a lot.
All the time.
Especially if their mortgage payment went up. And they say, Mr. Scott, I got a fixed mortgage. My mortgage is never supposed to go up. 30 years it says my mortgage is supposed to stay the same. So right away I know what the problem is.
Either going to be your property taxes or the insurance. Something in either one.
Either one. Remember, the mortgage is made up of 4 parts: your principal, your interest, your taxes, and the insurance. So the part you pay the bank that they keep, that's going to stay the same.
That's
unless
fixed.
You have a variable mortgage.
True.
However, if the taxes go up by $600, divide that by
12.
By 12, that means that all of a sudden now $50 a month your mortgage went up. So, but you know, that's based on the taxes. Another reason why, like I said, a lot of people are leaving out of Florida is because of the high cost of insurance. Insurance is with hurricanes. Every time you hear about hurricane, tornado, floods, windstorms, Florida. So the insurance companies are saying, whoa, wait a minute, enough is enough.
Some are backing out, some are raising the rates triple.
Right, so a lot of insurance companies are pulling out of Florida. A lot of people, you know, are moving out of Florida. So, you know, you might want to move down to Florida. It's nice and warm all year long. You got the surfing, you got the beaches, you know, the weather, you're retiring. So there's options out there. You know, a lot of people say to me, I'm tired of this cold weather. I'm tired of this snow. I'm getting out of here. I'm moving to a warmer climate. So you want to look at all your different options, you know?
Exactly, and actually a lot of options are right here in Connecticut. I mean, we have a lot of people who relocate here. We get a lot of referrals, and they don't realize very versatile state from suburbs to urban. Wherever you want to live, we actually have experience in a lot of these areas.
We got 40, like I said, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've seen the ups and the downs, you know, in the real estate. It all averages out over all of the periods of years. The main thing is you just got to be sort of, you know, have the foresight, listen, read, take information from professionals or people that have been involved in this, and then you make your decision. That's why I say, again, give me a call. And
yes.
My son a call. He's very knowledgeable.
We pick the phone up too. Call that number right now. It might vibrate right now. We're watching the TV.
That's right. If you call that number right there, it comes to our cell phone. So we may be out in the field, we can still talk to you.
Exactly.
So hopefully we gave you a lot of information today. You know, there was a lot to cram in there today.
Yeah, we try to put as much as we can this half hour.
So until next week, God bless.
Amen.
My name is Charles Scott. Here we are again this fine weekend, or I should say weekday. I'm here with my son, Charles Scott.
Junior, how you guys doing today? Hello, my viewers. Also, I just want to let you guys know, if you miss an episode from week to week, go on our Facebook page, TikTok, I have them on Twitter now, or YouTube, and just catch up on some of the episodes we talked about. We talk about a range of topics, not just real estate, but a lot of things that affect real estate in our day-to-day lives.
We're here today. We're going to be talking about real estate. We're going to be talking about some of the things that you can do.